I used to believe in science, in numbers, in things that could be measured, counted, and explained through formulas and laws. I was raised in a family where emotions had to stay silent behind a mask of reason. My father was an engineer, my mother was a nurse. They both believed that if you couldn't see it or touch it, it didn't exist, and I believed the same. I entered the media industry, a world where control and performance ruled, where the person who spoke more persuasively or manipulated more skillfully came out on top. I succeeded. I had a home, a name, a circle of friends. But every night when the lights went out and I lay alone, there was an emptiness inside me, as if I were just playing a role I had memorized too well. Have you ever reached everything others dream of, only to realize you feel like you have nothing real? I once loved someone deeply and truly. She had eyes that saw right through me, and that terrified me, because I knew that if I stayed, I would have to take off the mask I had worn for years, and I couldn't. When she told me she was pregnant, I walked away. Not because I didn't love her, but because I was a coward. I made up every excuse I could think of. I'm not ready, I'm not stable, the timing's not right. But the truth was, I had never been ready to live honestly. Later, I heard she lost the baby, and I just kept going, pretending nothing had happened, burying myself in work and relationships without strings. But every year on my birthday, one question would haunt me. If my child had lived, how old would they be now? Have you ever wondered if the people you left behind never really left, but were just waiting for you to wake up? Success came and went. My health began to decline in my early 40s. First, it was insomnia, then the heart palpitations. Then came the persistent stomach pain no doctor could explain. Still, I pushed on. I didn't know how to stop. I didn't know how to surrender. Because if I stopped, I would have to face myself. And I feared myself more than anything else in the world. Have you ever run from yourself for so long that you forget why you started running in the first place? But what happens when your body gives out before your mind is ready to face the truth? It was a quiet afternoon in April. The sky was clear, but my mind was cloudy. I had just left a meeting where I talked a lot, laughed a lot, but couldn't remember a single thing anyone had said to me. There was a sudden sharp pain in my lower abdomen, then a spreading ache like something inside me was being tightly squeezed. I assumed it was stress, like always, and brushed it off. But when I stepped into the restroom, I saw blood, a lot of blood. I stumbled out, tried to call for help, managed to say the name of the hotel, and then collapsed. In an instant, every sound around me vanished. I could no longer hear voices, see lights, or feel my body. I didn't know if I had fainted, was dreaming, or if I was dying. Have you ever fallen into a space where you are no longer anyone and no longer need to be? I felt myself drifting, not dreamily or magically. I simply wasn't inside my body anymore. I saw the room from above. I saw the paramedics panicking. I saw myself lying motionless on the floor. I should have been terrified, but instead, I felt peace. A peace that needed no explanation, no condition, no circumstance. I felt lighter, but at the same time, wider, deeper, as if I was no longer a man, but a single point of light among countless others welcoming me. Then I heard a voice, not with my ears, but with my soul. It asked, "Are you ready?" Have you ever heard a question with no sound, and yet it reaches the very bottom of your heart? I didn't know if I was dead, but I knew one thing for sure. I was no longer Daniel as I had known him. All names, memories, mistakes, achievements, and regrets dissolved. What remained was a single, overwhelming sensation. I was standing before something greater than me, truer than me, more real than I had ever been. And I was shown a choice, to step forward into that place or return. But before I could choose, what happened next changed everything. Have you ever believed you were the one driving your life, only to discover you were just a passenger? So what was waiting for me on the other side, and why did it feel so much like coming home? I don't remember the moment I died. I only remember that the boundary between myself and everything around me disappeared. There was no skin, no guise, no weight. And yet I was fully aware, more fully aware than I had ever been. I realized that every feeling, every image, every memory existed without the need for a brain. I was perceiving through an inner light, as if my soul had finally shed the heavy garment of the body. Then I was pulled into a tunnel. Not a dark tunnel like in the movies, but a swirling stream of vibrant light, alive and moving like the universe spinning itself. I didn't resist. I wasn't afraid. I simply let go and drifted. Have you ever let go of everything and for the first time truly seen yourself? I wasn't alone. I didn't see anyone, but I knew I was being guided. There was a clear sense that I was being invited into a place, not forced, just gently welcomed. A place the mind couldn't comprehend, but the soul instantly recognized. I remember clearly. There were no words, yet everything could be heard. No forms, yet every presence was revealed. No time, yet everything was happening at once. And somehow, in a way I can't explain, I knew I was about to see something unforgettable. Have you ever stood on the edge of a truth so vast that every definition you hold of yourself begins to crumble? That's what it feels like when the soul is about to meet itself again, both familiar and foreign, both trembling and serene. I didn't know what waited ahead, but I sensed with all my being that this wasn't the first time I had come here. It was as if I had been here many times before. I had simply forgotten. As if death weren't the end, but a remembering. A doorway not to something new, but to the origin you once came from. So if each death is a return, a moment of remembering, what have we forgotten through all our lifetimes? And if truth isn't something we learn, but something the soul has always known, then what made us forget? I didn't walk through any door. I was simply there, suddenly inside a space entirely different from anything I had ever known. There were no walls, no ceiling, no solid objects, yet it felt more real than anything I had ever touched. Everything around me was light, not blinding, not hot or cold, but a kind of living awareness that surrounded me. I no longer saw my body, yet I still was me, and somehow more than me. I felt myself as a point of light that could think, feel, and remember. But the most astonishing thing was this: I felt loved. Not a love that needed words or conditions or any kind of exchange. It was total acceptance, absolute compassion. As if nothing I had ever done was wrong. It had only been misunderstood. Have you ever felt forgiven before you even had the chance to say you were sorry? As I drifted through that light, I began to see. Not with my eyes, but through a kind of merging. I relived each moment of my life, not as a spectator, but as a soul re-embodying every choice. I felt the pain of those I had hurt. I felt the joy of those I had helped. I even felt the silent moments when I should have spoken, but didn't. And then I saw more than just this life. I saw other lifetimes, other people, other paths I had walked, once I didn't recognize, yet somehow knew intimately. I had been a father who lost a child, a soldier who took another's life, a son who abandoned his aging mother, a starving girl who died alone, a healer who saved someone's life. Have you ever wondered, if you've been every kind of person, what right would you have left to judge anyone? I saw that these lives weren't separate. They flowed like one continuous river. Every act in one lifetime sends ripples into the next, not as punishment, but as a way to relearn what I hadn't yet understood. And in that moment, I knew. What we call karma isn't retribution, it's soul education. Everything we experience is a chance to remember a lesson we once forgot. I wasn't forced to go back and fix anything. I was simply shown. And that alone made me want to make it right. Have you ever come face to face with a truth so deep, so undeniable, that you knew you could never go back to being who you were? But what brought me to tears wasn't the mistakes I had made. It was the realization that the things I once considered meaningless had created waves of energy that reached across the universe. So how many small things are we doing every day, unaware of how they're shaping the very fabric of our soul? I came to understand that what shook me the most wasn't what I had done in all those lifetimes. It was the fact that I could feel the exact emotions of every person I had ever affected. No one had to retell it. There was no need for proof. When I frightened a child with my anger, I became that child, trembling, alone, afraid. When I comforted someone who had lost hope, I felt their burden lift and mine lift with it. There was no separation between me and them. I was them, and they were me. Have you ever thought you were living a separate life, only to realize you are just one expression of a soul experiencing itself in millions of forms?
I began to understand that nothing is ever just once. Every word spoken, every thought passing through us becomes energy, and that energy doesn't disappear. It moves into others, into the space around us, into ourselves. I saw the so-called small choices I had made, the moments I dismissed as unimportant, become the very pivot points of karmic unfolding. I remembered once staying silent when a friend needed help. I was tired because I thought it could wait, and I saw that friend collapse in silence. I wasn't scolded, I was simply shown, as if a mirror had been held up to my soul. Do you have the courage to look into that mirror and see both the light and the shadow you've sown? Each scene didn't last long, but it cut deep enough to stay with me forever. There were moments when I was the victim, and moments when I was the one who caused the pain. My soul didn't hate anyone, it didn't defend anyone. It simply whispered, "Do you see? What have you learned?" And I understood that Ruth doesn't need to be declared, it only needs to be lived. And I had lived it, in a space beyond time, in a single moment that stretched across centuries. But the most powerful moment was when I saw the eyes of the child who never made it into this life. No blame, no anger, just a gaze of pure understanding, as if that little soul had come only to teach me something. Have you ever wondered if the one you walked away from was the very one sent to lead you home? And if everything I've ever done is being etched into my soul like permanent tattoos, then what is it I want to leave behind for myself in this lifetime?
I don't know how I got there. All I know is that the moment those streams of memory faded, I felt invited into a space unlike anything I had ever known. There was no door, yet I knew I had entered something sacred. Nothing there had a form, yet everything was undeniably present. I didn't see anyone, but I could feel many beings surrounding me. They didn't speak in words, but every thought they sent to me was clearer than any language I had ever learned. They didn't ask me why I did what I did. They simply showed me who I had been, who I had become, and what I had learned from every experience I had ever lived. Have you ever stepped into a room where no one judged you, yet the truth was so raw and complete that you couldn't hide? One being in particular had no name, but radiated a kind of love I had never known. It wasn't sweet, it wasn't flattering, it was true. It was as if I saw my soul through the eyes of God, untouched by shame, fear, or distortion. This being asked me, "Do you want to continue?" Not to continue living, but to continue learning. I understood that I had the choice to stay, but if I chose to return, I would have to carry every truth I had just seen and live with it. No more pretending, no more sleepwalking, no more living as if nothing had happened. Would you have the courage to live a life where every moment is a chance to heal your soul? I wasn't forced, I wasn't persuaded, but I was reminded, you have seen, you cannot unsee. And I understood no one else could awaken for me. No one else could take responsibility for me. No one else could live in my place. I would have to re-enter the old world as someone entirely new, and no one but me would know it. Maybe that's the hardest part, not seeing the truth, but bringing it back to a world that's gotten used to lies. Have you ever felt your soul calling you to wake up while everything around you is trying to lull you back to sleep? I chose to return. But what happened after I opened my eyes? And why was it almost impossible to speak of anything I had seen? I wasn't just asked, "Do you want to go back?" I was shown that if I did return, my soul would carry a mission, not to become someone great, not to teach or save anyone, but simply to live truthfully, to live a life in full honesty with my soul. And in that moment, I understood just how difficult that truly is. Because it's easy to live a lie. Anyone can smile while they're hurting. Anyone can hide tears behind laughter. But to live in truth means daring to be vulnerable, daring to say I was wrong, daring to stand alone, daring to lose people, lose status, lose everything except yourself. Have you ever considered that the greatest mission isn't to change the world, but not to let the world change you? These beings didn't command me. They simply existed, radiant, peaceful, present. Every second I spent with them, I felt like I was remembering something ancient, already etched deep within me. It wasn't new knowledge, it was timeless wisdom. Not complicated philosophy, but a clear, absolute understanding of the soul's nature.
That every person we meet is a part of who we've been. That every hurt we cause is a wound we carve into ourselves. That every action we set in motion will, eventually, return to us, not for punishment, but for completion. And I began to see more clearly that there are no accidents, no victims, no one is fully to blame. Have you ever paused long enough to wonder if the person who hurt you was only helping you remember a lesson your soul had once refused to learn? Before I left, I was shown one last thing, a very specific image. I was sitting in a small room, pen in hand, in front of an unfinished letter, and I knew I had to go back to finish it. Not to rescue anyone, but to restore something that had been broken, between me and another, between me and myself, between me and my soul. And the moment that thought reached me, I knew the choice had been made. There were no words, no nod, just a knowing. I had chosen to return. Have you ever felt like your soul made a promise before you were even born, and that now you're simply remembering it? I opened my eyes, and the world was the same, but I was not. So, what truly happens when you bring the truth of the soul into a world built on forgetting? I opened my eyes, and the fluorescent light of the hospital pierced them like a truth too bright to bear. The sounds of machines, voices, and the sharp scent of antiseptic all came rushing back as if they had never left. But I knew I was no longer who I had been. A nurse called my name. A doctor asked how I was feeling. I nodded, gave a faint smile, and said I was fine. But how could they understand? How could they know that the man lying there had just lived through what felt like 1,000 years, had witnessed dozens of lifetimes, had met himself in the purest form possible? I wanted to scream it all out, but my voice barely whispered. Have you ever woken up from a dream that shook your soul, only to be forced to live as if it never happened? The days that followed were full of collision. Everyone around me thought I just needed rest, that I'd soon return to normal. But I couldn't. I couldn't lie to myself anymore. I couldn't fake a laugh at a story that rang hollow. I couldn't sit through another meeting without hearing my soul whisper, "This place is no longer yours." I began to notice things I used to overlook. The sadness in a coworker's eyes, the weariness behind an old friend's smile, and the emptiness in my reflection every time I looked in the mirror. Have you ever found yourself back in the same world where everything looks familiar, but none of it feels true anymore?
I started writing a journal, not for anyone to read, just to hold on to what I had seen. Because I knew if I didn't write it down, I would begin to forget, and forgetting would be a betrayal of my soul. I wrote about the light, about karma, about forgiveness, about unconditional love. I started eating more slowly, listening more, speaking less. I called my ex, not to apologize, but to tell her that I remembered. I visited the cemetery where my father was buried, not to grieve, but to thank him for teaching me resilience, even in silence. I sat alone for hours, doing nothing, yet I felt fuller than I ever had. Have you ever lived a day, not to prove anything, but just to feel every moment completely? I knew I could never go back to being who I was, but becoming someone new wasn't easy either. So, how do you live truthfully in a world that pretends safety lies in pretending? There are moments when I ask myself, was it all just an illusion? But then, all I have to do is close my eyes, and I see that light again. I feel that knowing, that clarity, that touch on the deepest part of who I am. Not a single day passes without remembering what I went through. Not to dwell on the past, but to remind myself to live more truthfully. I look at the world around me, and it feels like a mask slowly falling away. I see my friends diving into their work, burying themselves in the chase for recognition, and I no longer feel the urge to compete. I just want to ask them, "Are you okay?" But then I remember I used to hate that question too, because I was afraid to answer honestly. Have you ever longed to awaken someone, only to realize they are dreaming the same dream you once refused to leave? I began to change small things. I stopped going to social gatherings that felt meaningless. I turned off my phone for hours each day, just to hear the wind, watch the clouds drift, to feel each heartbeat I once took for granted. I looked into the eyes of everyone I met, even strangers, as if they might be a memory returning in a new form. I no longer sought love as something to possess. I just wanted to be present, truly present, when someone needed to be seen, heard, or understood. Have you ever stopped asking, "What can others give me?" and started asking, "What am I leaving behind in their soul?" The hardest part isn't changing, it's staying awake in a world constantly trying to pull you back to sleep. I've had to relearn how to speak truth even when it hurts, relearn how to listen even when it's uncomfortable, relearn how to love without control. I understand now my soul doesn't need me to be perfect, it just needs me to stop betraying it. Have you ever looked in the mirror and for the first time seen eyes that no longer crave approval, only light? But the truth is, I still don't know what I'm meant to do with this gift. And if every awakening is an invitation to act, then what should the first step be? I knew I couldn't go back to who I was, but I also couldn't explain to the world what had happened. No one asked me, "Did you die?" But everyone could sense something was different. I was no longer in a hurry. I no longer argued. I no longer tried to be understood. I just wanted to listen and choose what felt right for my soul. Every day I asked myself, what does my soul need today? And sometimes the answer was simply to sit beside someone who was crying and say nothing. There were moments I stood in front of a homeless child I once ignored. This time I didn't walk away. I looked. And in that child's eyes, I saw myself. Have you ever realized that the eyes of a stranger can awaken a part of your soul you had forgotten? I began to tell my story, not because I wanted attention, but because I knew there were others out there just as lost as I once was. People are searching for something beyond their job titles, their possessions, and their roles. People standing on the edge who needed just one word, one sign, one small light, not to give up. And I, holding this truth in my heart, could not stay silent. I didn't preach, I didn't persuade, I just shared. And if someone needed to hear it, they would. I no longer needed to become anyone. I just wanted to be someone who had truly seen. Have you ever lived without needing a role, because being fully present was finally enough? I rewrote the letter I had seen in that vision before I returned. One of the women I abandoned. One for the unborn child. One to the man I once was, hiding inside layers of armor. I didn't write to be forgiven. I wrote so my soul would no longer feel incomplete. I sent them, and let them go. If they're read, they will know. If not, that's okay. I did my part. Have you ever done the right thing, not for recognition, not for a result, but simply because not doing it would mean losing yourself? And yet, there's one thing I still don't fully understand. If I were sent back to live truthfully, then where is that truth meant to take me? And how many more souls still need to remember that their light was never truly lost? I began to see that a soul's mission isn't something grand. It's not about standing on a stage or writing a best-selling book. It's about having the courage to be fully present in the smallest of moments. When I wash the dishes, I do it as if I'm touching life itself. When I listen to someone speak, I listen as if they are the only soul that exists in that moment. I no longer give advice. Instead, I simply look deeply enough for the other person to see themselves. I realized that light doesn't come from speaking loudly. It comes from living deeply. I walk more. I touch trees more. I cry alone more. But I have never felt stronger. Have you ever lived quietly enough to hear the whisper of your soul through the noise of life? I began to attract people like me, souls who had also seen, who were also remembering, who were learning how not to betray the light within. We didn't need many words, just presence. And sometimes, being present for a stranger who's lost is the most beautiful thing you can offer. I no longer want to change the world. I just want to live in such a way that if someone passes me in their lifetime, they remember there is still light, there is still love, there is still someone living truthfully. Have you ever stopped aiming for success and started asking instead, is my soul growing stronger each day? I'm no longer afraid of death, because I know I've already been through it, and it isn't frightening. What's far more frightening is living a life that was never truly lived. I fear falling asleep again. I fear being pulled back into the rhythm, into that old version of normal. But every time that fear rises, I close my eyes, and the light is still there, inside me, unmoving, unfading. All it asks is that I remember, and I do. I remember to live. I live so I won't forget. Have you ever realized that every journey outward is just a way to take you back in? I am still learning, still living, still listening, but this time not to become anyone, just to return to myself, a soul remembering its way home. So if each of us has already seen, then what makes us forget? And what, at last, will help us remember? If you're hearing me now, maybe you too are searching for something deeper than fame, deeper than money, deeper than the roles society keeps telling us to wear. Maybe you've known pain, or loss, or despair so deep that you questioned whether life was still worth living. And maybe, just maybe, in one fleeting moment, you too have seen what I saw. A feeling with no name, no explanation, yet so real that everything else fades into silence. I'm not here to teach you. I'm not someone special. I'm just living proof of one simple truth. Death is not the end. It is a reminder that somewhere along the way, you forgot who you really are. Have you ever stopped in the middle of your daily struggles and asked yourself, am I truly living or just repeating a script I never even wrote? I'm no longer afraid of being wrong because I understand every mistake is a classroom. I no longer fear losing anyone because I've come to see no one really leaves. They just change roles so our souls can learn. I'm not afraid of being alone because I know it's in silence that the soul speaks the loudest. You don't need to awaken like I did. You just need to begin listening. Listening to what you've always known, but chose to forget so you could fit into a world that never saw the real you. You were once light. You still are light. And you will always be light until the moment you choose to live as if you were only a shadow. Have you ever tried living one day as if you were the last light this world might ever see? I have no formula, no roadmap. I only know this. If today I live with kindness, with presence, with unconditional love, then today was worth living. And if even one person, just one, sees the light in me and remembers the light in themselves, then every pain I've ever gone through will have mattered. I don't need to understand all of life. I just need to believe that each sincere step brings me closer to home. Have you ever looked in the mirror and, instead of seeing your reflection, felt a soul waiting for you to return? So, if you've forgotten, forgive yourself. And if you're beginning to remember, don't wait. Live. Live honestly. Live deeply. Live as if your soul is writing the next chapter and the whole universe is listening.